Hi everyone, in this video we'll be learning about how to use specific details in our writing versus general details. The reason why you want to do that is because sometimes when you use just general details in your writing, your reader thinks that you don't really know what you're talking about. So the more specific details that you can use, the more believable, engaging, and helpful your writing will be. So let's take a look at this piece of writing. How could we make these details more specific? I could tell I was coming down with the flu. I began feeling lousy while I was at school. By the time I got home, it was even worse. The symptoms kept developing one after another. I went to bed feeling horrible, and there was no doubt that I was really in for it. I could tell I was going to feel awful for days. Getting the flu was such a miserable experience that I would really not wish it on anyone. So let's just go through and talk about which of these details are kind of vague and general. I began feeling lousy while I was at school. Feeling lousy tells us a little bit, except there's lots of different ways you can feel lousy, so it's not very specific. By the time I got home, it was even worse. How did it get worse? What is it? The symptoms kept developing one after the other. What are the symptoms? I went to bed feeling horrible, and there was no doubt I was really in for it. In for what? I could tell I was going to feel awful for days. So there's at least 4 areas here where the writer could be more specific. So let's look what happens when we edit and change. So the first paragraph is the same one that's on the left there. And now we're looking at the one on the right that has a little bit more information in. I know exactly when the flu hit. I was at my desk when I felt a tickle in my throat. I began to cough and the cough refused to go away. So we have much more specific details than feeling lousy is now a tickle in my throat and cough that refused to go away. A few minutes later, the words on my computer screen began to swim. So now we know that the person is feeling dizzy. I could feel a deep headache developing behind my eyes. By the time I got home later that afternoon, I had a fever of 102. So over here, it says by the time I got home, it was even worse. But over here, we have more details about how it was actually fever. I crawled into bed shivering, even with 3 blankets. So again, this emphasizes the fever. I was aching so badly, I felt as though I'd been hit by a truck. So this is interesting. Instead of just saying that you feel awful, he or she uses a simile here. I was aching so badly, I felt as though I'd been hit by a truck. So it's much more descriptive so you can understand how the writer feels. When I say I feel awful, you don't really understand what I mean by that. But when I say I was feeling so sick I got hit by a truck, felt as though I got hit by a truck, you definitely understand a little bit more specifically about how the writer was feeling. So now you're going to go back to some of your work and try this again on the worksheet that your teacher has handed you.